program for deceased Boya Diocesan priest Reverend Father Nicholas Happy has been made public. According to the program from the Chancellery of the Diocese, the funeral is billed for Wednesday, April 9th and Thursday, April 10th, 2025. Staff of Caritas of the Diocese of Boya have been trained on workers' social security and encouraged to collaborate with the newly created office in the diocese to ensure good working conditions for the workers of that service. And the Office of the Public Independent Conciliator for the Southwest Region has made public its 2024 assessment results of its works with individuals, councils, and public collectivities in the Southwest Region. They presented the report to the press on April 1, 2025. Those are the top stories on the Primetime News this second day of April 2025. Join us in the minutes ahead as we give you a development of those stories. Good evening, dear viewer. Thanks for tuning in to the Primetime News on the Divine Mercy Radio Television. We kickstart the newscast this evening with this story where heads of diocesan institutions of the Diocese of Boya have been encouraged to report to the Office of Social Security any of their worker who is not registered under the Social Security system. The call was made by the supervisor of the newly created office here in the Diocese of Boya, Kilian Seformo, during a meeting with Caritas staff today, April 2nd, 2025. From our newsroom, Nadesh Nechongme went over to Caritas office. She brought back this update.
Staff members of Caritas Diocese of Boya gathered at the Caritas building for a meeting with Sefomo Kilian to address ongoing challenges related to social welfare for workers in the diocese. This follows a recent communique from His Lordship Michael Bibi, who has been tasked with overseeing the welfare of diocesan workers and resolving their social welfare issues.
The step that we have taken this time around is to carry out a census to make sure that all the workers are inside our account, and to make sure that those who had problems with the account should be updated. So the bishop has taken this as a priority and asked us to do everything we can to make sure that every worker feels satisfied when it comes to benefits from social insurance fund and preparation for their retirement.
After visiting several diocesan institutions like the Catholic Printing Press and Divine Mercy Radio Television, he reassured workers that their social security issues would be examined and resolved in the coming days.
I think that the worries of the workers have been the same as usual, but this time around they are being assured that those worries will be looked into and properly examined. So they have been talking about family allowances, they have been talking about maternity leave, they have been talking about pension. So the bishop's priority has been to make a census to make sure that the account of every worker is updated.
The director of Caritas Diocese of Boya, Pierre Chindar, applauded the bishop's initiative and expressed his commitment to working closely with the Social Security Office.
To always come very close to that office that the bishop has created to seek advice and to guide us. The good information is that all our workers are declared at the CNPS, and we are paying all the contribution and all the taxes.
Sefomo Kilian encouraged heads of diocesan institutions to report to the office if they notice any worker not fully registered under the Social Security system.
Institutions should report to us immediately those who are just employed through the Department of Human Resource. Make sure that let nobody stay at the job site without being registered.
The Social Security Office, located at the basement of the co-cathedral, works in close collaboration with the Human Resource Office to ensure that diocesan workers receive the social security benefits they are entitled to.
Members of the Presbyterial Council of the Diocese of Buea have been called to implement and execute pastoral program and strategies for the Diocese of Buea. The call was made yesterday while these members gathered at the conference room out there in Simosopo at the Bishop's house. The meeting was chaired by His Lordship Michael Bibi. Let's have a report on this meeting with Nadesh Nenchongme once more.
Members of the Presbyterial Council, made up of deans from various deaneries and the bishop, gathered at the Bishop's Conference Hall in Simosopo, Buea to deliberate on key issues related to the diocese. The discussions were centered around upcoming events including the Chrism Mass, Cathedraticum, the Lenten pilgrimage and the funeral program for the late Reverend Father Nicholas Happy, amongst others. The Chancellor of the Diocese of Buea, Reverend Father Michael Mbowi, expatiated on the objectives of the meeting, emphasizing the importance of planning and coordination for these diocesan events.
So we needed to come together to be able to discuss, to see how to plan for the funeral of our brother, Father Nicholas. There are other issues too that are coming up in the diocese, like the 75th anniversary of the diocese, which is coming up very soon, and we have our Vatican representative in the person of our Archbishop Fortunatus Nwachukwu. So we need to discuss or see, it's a diplomatic visit, so we need to know exactly how to prepare for it, how to plan things so that it is given the grandeur that it's supposed to have. And also, since he's a diplomat, he cannot come to the diocese without equally meeting with the government officials. So he has to travel to Yaoundé and all of it. So there's a lot that we have been discussing in the course of this particular meeting.
The chairperson of the Association of Diocesan Priests, Reverend Father Asek Bernard, outlined some of the points raised during the meeting. Among the decisions made was the need for thorough preparations to ensure the success of these upcoming activities.
The first point I would discuss on was the funeral of our brother, Father Nicholas Happy. And at least we discussed much about that, and the program will be communicated surely this evening or tomorrow. They will also discuss about the 75th anniversary of our diocese. And there it was concluded that we should encourage all the Christians to attend massively.
The Dean of Monya Deanery, Reverend Father Stephen Berwignui, and Monsignor Jude Thaddeus B expressed their satisfaction with the discussions and the outcomes of the meeting.
The bishop is so open-minded, he doesn't just sit in his own house, decide on his own. He consults with his priest and also get their own opinion, get their own suggestions, and then together as a father, he communicates what he thinks is okay for the diocese, what is good for the diocese.
We looked at that one and then other things that are in between and that concern the diocese also. So I think that it's a very good thing that we meet regularly and are able to brainstorm.
The meeting marks an important step in ensuring that the diocese's mission continues to move forward with purpose and devotion.
We now take you to one of the points discussed in that Presbyterial Council meeting, which was the funeral program of late Father Nicholas Happy. The funeral program was made public yesterday, April 1st, by the Chancellor of the Diocese of Buea. The masses will take place on Wednesday and Thursday. Jude Mbaku has a full reading of the funeral program.
April 1, 2025, to all Monsignors, all clergy, members of the Institute of Consecrated Life, all societies of Apostolic Life, all lay faithful, Diocese of Buea, dear brothers and sisters, funeral program for Father Nicholas Happy. On behalf of the Bishop of the Diocese of Buea, His Lordship Michael Miabesue Bibi, I write to communicate to you the funeral program of late Father Nicholas Happy, priest of the Diocese of Buea, who slept in the Lord on March 27, 2025 at the Patro Pio Hospital in Douala. On Wednesday, April 9, 2025, 4 p.m., removal of the mortal remains from the Mount Mary Hospital mortuary and procession to the Regina Apache's Cathedral, Sumosopo. 5 p.m., Office of the Dead. 6 p.m., First Requiem Mass with the People of God of Boya Diocese. 9 p.m., Second Requiem Mass with the Provincial Association of Diocesan Priests. Thursday, April 10, 2025, at 12 a.m., Third Requiem Mass with the parishes Father Nicholas Happy served in All Saints Parish, Mutengene, St. Charles Luanga Parish, Moliko, Immaculate Conception Parish, Great Support, Military, and Our Lady of Great Shrine, Sase. 3 a.m., Fourth Requiem Mass with the immediate family, classmates, and friends. 6:30 a.m., Fifth Requiem Mass with small support Christians. 9 a.m., Funeral Mass at Regina Apache's ceremonial ground and burial at the Cathedral Cemetery, small support Boya.
Funeral program of late Father Nicholas Happy, who will be laid to rest next week, Thursday, the 10th of April 2025. Let's take you now over to Rome, where this April 2nd, 2025, Cardinal Pietro Parolin has presided at the Mass marking the 20th anniversary of the death of Pope St. John Paul II. During his homily, he commemorated the legacy of a pontiff who profoundly shaped the Church and the world. Let's have this report with seminarian and pastoral year Bernard Asongne.
Reflecting clearly on Pope John Paul II's final moment 2 decades ago, Cardinal Pietro Parolin has recalled the powerful images of the Pope embracing the cross during the Way of the Cross, his silent Easter Sunday blessings from the window overlooking St. Peter's Square, and the immense crowd that gathered to bid farewell to their shepherd. The Vatican Secretary of State was celebrating Holy Mass in St. Peter's Basilica on April 2nd, 2025, the exact date which records the passing into glory of Pope John Paul II on April 2nd, 2005. In the presence of clergy, religious dignitaries, and faithful who gathered to commemorate the late pontiff in a spirit of gratitude and joy. Drawing from the Gospel of John, the Cardinal reflected on the deep faith that guided John Paul II throughout his life. This conviction, he said, sustained the late Pope in his unwavering mission, leading him to face challenges with extraordinary courage and faithfulness. Highlighting the Polish Pope's profound sense of living under God's gaze and the transparency of his life before God, the Cardinal noted that it was the foundation of his fearless witness to the truth, his unyielding defense of human dignity, and his tireless proclamation of the gospel.
Non ha alcuna paura dello sguardo degli uomini. E qui sta certamente uno dei fondamenti dello straordinario coraggio e della costanza della testimonianza di fede di Giovanni Paolo II davanti agli uomini in ogni situazione, in tutta la sua vita e in tutta l'eccezionale durata del suo pontificato.
As the entire faithful recall so well the Pope's recognition of divine providence in his own life, everyone is called to turn to him in prayer as the Pilgrim Church hopes continuously for his blessings for a wounded humanity in search of its dignity and vocation.
We bring you back to Boya, and this time around we talk about an international day observed today, April 2nd, the world commemorates World Autism Day. Medical practitioners, international bodies, among health institutions have called on all to create an inclusive society to accommodate persons living with autism. Sama Eileen spoke with a medical doctor on what the developmental condition is all about and measures needed to create an inclusive environment for all suffering from this disability. Her report.
Annually on April 2, the international community commemorates World Autism Awareness Day, during which the United Nations encourage member states to take measures to raise awareness about autistic individuals worldwide.
Autism spectrum disorder is a set of disorders which are characterized by interactive deficits in children and even in adults. Autism presents in every age. It can present in any age group, and you can diagnose it as early as when the child is less than 1 year old. The diagnosis of autism essentially is made by a medical practitioner or a properly trained healthcare provider. The diagnosis of autism is made from the clinical presentation and the signs and symptoms. There are no laboratory tests which you can do for this disease.
Dr. Asongwe Hexafield pointed out symptoms of autism spectrum disorder and its causes.
The child presents with deficits, there are motor deficits. The child presents with abnormal motor behavioral patterns. We can have tics, we can have flapping movements of the hand and the feet, as well as some physical abnormalities which may point to the underlying condition presenting as the autism spectrum disorder. Autism spectrum disorder can be caused by the causes of autism spectrum disorder either genetic or idiopathic. Genetic means comes with the gene you're inherited. Idiopathic means we don't know the cause, or the cause is at this point not identified. We have genetic diseases like the Rett syndrome. We have genetic diseases like the Fragile X syndrome, which will present with the autism spectrum disorder.
The medical expert says the disorder has no medical treatment, but supportive therapy is essential.
We don't have any medication to treat autism. Autism treatment is essentially behavioral and supportive therapy. So the behavioral therapy we have specially trained specialists who are trained in managing children with autism spectrum disorder specific to their needs. For those with speech problems, we have speech therapists which will handle the children, which follow them up, which train them to better express themselves verbally. For those with motor disorders, for those with motor manifestation of the autism spectrum, we have physical therapists which will help for that.
Dr. Hexafield's take-home message to all is?
So for the take-home message from us as the healthcare providers, autism is not something abnormal. Autism is not a taboo. They are normal children, they are normal adults, they are like us, they just need special needs and special attention. The theme of this year is essentially about us treating those with autism as normal people, us not stigmatizing the children with autism, us not trying to treat them as them being abnormal. They are normal people with special needs. We just need to accept them the way they are and we integrate them into the society. As the SDGs say, everyone is included in the society we live in.
Advancing Neurodiversity and the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals SDGs is theme for this year's World Autism Awareness Day.
Let's turn now to one of our top stories. The Public Independent Conciliator for the Southwest Region has presented the 2024 annual report, describing it as a mitigated one. This report is a comprehensive assessment of the state of affairs between citizens and regional plus municipal councils. The executive summary of the document was shared with the press on April 1, 2025 at the institution's office. Hilarion Tukov tells us more.
The Office of the Public Independent Consulator, Southwest Region, April 1, 2025, pressmen, council officials, flanked by other administrators, converged for the 2024 annual report on the state of relations between citizens and the regional and municipal council services. The Public Independent Consulator for the Southwest Region, Mrs. Ataboni Dorothy Motaze, in keeping with the law which outlined that the independent consulator must present her report 30 days after submission to the head of state, the public independent consulator described the 2024 annual report as a mitigated one.
It's a mitigated report. There are areas of satisfaction in urban municipalities, especially municipalities of Fako and Kumba City Council, because they are in the urban centers and there's relative security and they have money to carry out projects. For the typical grassroots population, the remote areas of the Southwest, it is really not easy. And so they have every reason to complain because they have other concerns. The state of the roads does not even merit that contractors should go and reach there, and even if they reach there, it's impossible for them because of the socio-security crisis we have been having. And so the developmental projects are not homogeneous throughout the region, and so people in the rural setting complain more than those in the urban settings.
In her report, the Public Independent Consulator frowned at the poor developmental nature of the 31 councils in the Southwest region, which is caused by abandonment of projects. She calls on the service providers to be conscious.
Yes, they abandon the projects, but these projects are not carried out in the whole of the municipality. That's what I'm saying. But for those that are awarded and abandoned, it's a call for concern. And I think, like I mentioned, these contracts are not given by this office, and we call on the goodwill of the service providers to try to engage and carry out the activity for which they themselves applied for, so that the population can be impacted. In fact, the purpose of decentralization is that the livelihoods of the grassroots population of the region should be impacted. That is by them feeling that they have basic amenities. If, for instance, a borehole is given, they should see water running for as long as ever. Not that a borehole is given and a few weeks after it no longer runs.
In attendance, among others, the City Mayor of Limbe City Council, the Secretary General of Kumba City Council, the President of the Southwest Regional Assembly. These officials all echoed the works of the Independent Consulator, Mrs. Ataboni Dorothy Motaze, and her collaborators issued in the 2024 report recommendations to high authorities. Pertinent was the solution for the councils to set up garbage disposal arrangements under the council's hygiene and sanitation department with a symbolic tax fare to household. This, to her, will help to solve the problem of poor waste management in the region. The interactive session between the officials and the press ended in a successful atmosphere. The Office of the Public Independent Consulator was created since 2020 to examine and amicably settle dispute between users and the regional and council administrators. Mrs. Ataboni Dorothy Motaze has been at the helm of this office for 4 years with a successful pass mark.
Thank you, Hilarion Toko, for that report. We now take you beyond the borders of Cameroon. Leaders of the Democratic Republic of Congo will be meeting this April for the first time with leaders of the M23 rebel group in the Qatari capital to discuss peaceful negotiations between the two parties. And the French far-right political leader Marine Le Pen has blasted her arrests and ineligibility to run for the 2027 presidential elections as a ploy to destabilize the party. Aloysius Likie has a roundup on these stories.
The Congolese government and the M23 rebels are expected to hold direct talks on April 9 in the Qatari capital. The meeting in Doha will be the first between the two sides since the rebels backed by Rwanda captured two provincial capitals in eastern Congo. An earlier meeting planned in Angola on March 18 was aborted after M23 pulled out at the last minute, protesting European Union sanctions on its leaders. Until March, Kinshasa had dismissed the suggestion of holding direct dialogue with the rebels it considers a proxy force by Rwanda. In mid-March, Congolese President Felix Tshisekedi and his Rwandan counterpart Paul Kagame held a surprise meeting in Doha. Qatar has since hosted Congolese government and rebel delegations separately, Reuters reported on Monday. The head of the Rassemblement National Party declined to make preparations for a potential convention. In her initial public response, she held back from handing over leadership to her deputy Jordan Bardella, which has intensified political uncertainty within the far-right faction. French far-right leader Marine Le Pen has received a 5-year disqualification from holding public office due to her involvement in embezzlement EU funds, making a significant political upheaval. This ruling, which is effective immediately, could prevent her from participating in the next presidential election in France. At a press conference in Paris on Tuesday, Le Pen remarked,
"The system has dropped a nuclear bomb. The reason it's using such a powerful weapon against us is obviously because we are about to win the election. They think that everything they have put in place hasn't worked, and so it's time to take it a step further."
Having been the runner-up to French President Emmanuel Macron twice, the 56-year-old daughter of the late far-right icon Jean-Marie Le Pen has seen as a rise in her support base. She has been sentenced to 2 years of house arrest with an electronic ankle monitor, along with an additional 2-year suspended sentence and an immediate 5-year ineligible for public office. Le Pen's attorney announced plans to appeal the decision, but she will remain ineligible during the appeal process, potentially excluding her from the 2027 presidential elections. The Rwanda scheme was wasteful and inefficient, according to Stemmer, speaking at an international immigration summit hosted by the UK on Monday. The British Prime Minister slammed the scheme developed by the previous government of sending asylum seekers to Rwanda to have the asylum request processed there instead on UK soil. Stemmer's Labour government cancelled the Rwanda scheme in July 2024 after being elected into office, promising to replace it with a more efficient policy.
We're also deploying resources away from the Tories' wasteful Rwanda scheme, a scheme that spent over £700 million of taxpayer money to remove just 4 volunteers. Now, even if that scheme had gone well, they were claiming that they might remove 300 people a year. Well, since coming to office, I can announce today we've returned more than 24,000 people who have no right to be here. That would have taken the Rwanda scheme 80 years to achieve.
His remarks come as right support for the anti-immigration reform UK party has put pressure on his government to act with regard to immigration policy.
That report with Aloysius Likie draws us to the end of the primetime news here on DMR TV. Just before we let go of you, let us remind you of our top stories again. In this newscast, we told you the funeral program for deceased Buea diocesan priest Reverend Father Nicholas Happy has been made public. According to the program from the Chancellery of the Diocese of Buea, the funeral is billed for Wednesday, April 9 and Thursday, April 10, 2025. Equally, we told you staff of Caritas of the Diocese of Buea have been trained on worker social security and encouraged to collaborate with the newly created office in the diocese to ensure good worker conditions for the workers of that service. And the Office of the Public Independent Conciliator for the Southwest Region has made public its 2024 assessment results for its works with individuals, councils, and public collectivities in the Southwest Region. They presented the report to the press on April 1, 2025. Thanks for being part and parcel of today's edition of the Primetime News on the Divine Mercy Radio Television. Join us tomorrow for yet another package which we shall bring to your notice. Have a blessed evening in the company of programs on the Divine Mercy Radio Television. Good night.